Welcome back, everyone. So you guys know how much I love Koh-yos. Check out this new lot that just came in. Genetic powerhouse. This one plant in particular came in with a little bit of a soft spot, and I'm the type of person that I gotta know what's going on, so I ended up probing away at the wound to see if it was fully healed. The plant felt hard. Yeah, I ended up chipping away at it, and it looks like it was a previous injury, probably from the original shipment, and it's completely healed now. So a big part of my soil mix is perlite. Financially, it makes sense. It's easy to find, and I know there's other ways you can make fancier substrates, but I think it's more important to understand what the plant needs and why you're using it, and adapt to your environment and what you can find locally. It's basically just 80 or 90% inorganic. The rest is a compost. Right now I'm using worm castings. I also like the Kellogg's potting mix. But yeah, it's a heavy inorganic mix. Works for me. I don't sift the perlite. I feel like the small particles act like an additional ingredient, kind of like a sand. And with this mix, normally I water every 15 days, sometimes longer. I kind of base it off the needs of my cacti and how much they have dehydrated. So, but yeah, roughly in the peak season, around every 15 days is usually when I water. And I do use a fertilizer mixed into the water, because the soil is a very sterile mix. It's just very little nutrients. So throughout the growing season, I will water with fertilizer. Yeah, you can see it's just a very open mix. I can grow on 100% perlite, but I feel like I'm pushing it. It's just too sterile. Stuff grows real slow. This first coil is the coil that had the injury, but it's hard to pick it up on camera, but the red is the darkest out of the lot, and it kind of turns more of a purpley color. These are established imported plants from Thorn Oasis. As you can see, the root system's nice and established. Probably have been in their pots for about over a year, so they're not fresh imports. So what I'm doing here is just more of like a slip pot, where I'm not disturbing the root system, and planting them in a dry soil, and just leaving them be. I normally don't even put them under shade. My whole greenhouse is under 30%, so I just put them up in the racks, and when I see that there's a little bit of growth, or mainly the growth, when the lobes start to split in the middle, is when I'll start watering. It could be anywhere between 4 days to a couple of months. This next Koh-yo is probably the brightest. Phenomenal color. It's almost a neon. Same thing, well established root system, and just slip potting. I don't want to damage anything. I feel like when I first got into cacti, I came from more of a bonsai background, so I was always used to cutting the living hell out of roots before we repot. But I found out that for them to bounce back and start growing, it's better to just leave them alone, and then pot them in the dry soil, slowly get them acclimated. So it worked for me. So yeah, this one's the brightest of the lot, in my opinion. Very simple shade, but it leaves the door open to cross it with other genetics. This next one looks like the first one, more of a reddish hue. It's more towards the orange. You can tell this whole lot probably came from the same they're genetically similar, so they're from the same seedling tray. The form looks very similar, the color looks very similar, and I think that's very important when it comes to breeding, is to have genetically close individuals in the breeding stock to kind of refine them. the same thing, just a quick repot. I tap it just to get some of the soil to compact just a tiny bit. This next one is probably my favorite one out of the lot. For me here in America, it's pretty hard to find Koh-yos that only express in the outer lobe. They're real pretty. I found one last year that expresses more of a red, and I have seen that other growers isolate the trait, so it is genetically linked in some way. I haven't bred them enough to understand if they just randomly pop up, or if it is a genetic trait that gets passed down. This guy right here is probably the lowest grade out of the lot. Yellow seems to be the most common color I run into. It's a very low expression, but I got a pretty good price for it, so I couldn't say no. And it is expressing a little bit of Kiko, so maybe down the road the lows would start dividing. But overall, a pretty low grade for me. I don't like the fully yellow ones as much as the reds or the orange. But it's a beautiful plant regardless. This guy right here is probably the best color out of the lot, but maybe a little too good because it's almost bright orange, so there's no chlorophyll left barely on the surface. Koh-yo, in my opinion, is more of a sensitivity, so when the conditions are correct, the plant will kind of push down the chlorophyll, and the only thing left in those areas are just the water, the epidermic tissue, and the betalain. And the betalain, depending on how stressed or the plant, some plants stress more of a yellow, orange, and depending on the conditions. So yeah, this guy stresses really fast, so I'm gonna have to keep him a little bit more on the shaded side if I want to grow him up. But if I want him to look nice in a full sun, he'll turn bright yellow. And here they are. I mixed in a couple other plants in there, so when I create these groups, I like to put stuff I want to breed together, as I believe that if the conditions are similar, the flowering would be at a similar time, so it gives me more chances to breed them together. So I put a lot of Koh-yos in here. That purple one in the beginning, I don't know if that's considered a Koh-yo. I don't think it is. I think it would be more classified like a purple, like how we call them in the Asterius world. This is a questionable Fukuru, maybe a Yori of another questionable one. Two lower grade Koh-yos that I found. That's it looks like an ornatum Fukuru, very low expression, really nice one. The spiral and Suka, some nicer newer imports, and that last one I degrafted myself. And these are the Fukurus from a couple months ago. They're starting to grow, and then here's an update on some of my grafts. A lot of them are starting to split open. They're starting to take off, so the season is just starting. Everything just not waking up. I did one watering. That's my first watering of the year. Probably wait another month. And this little guy's a little armadillo we found at the park. My son loved him.